Alright, today we're going to be putting another carburetor on this 1964 Oldsmobile 98. This was my great uncle's car. Distant relative, didn't know him that well, but nonetheless, still a family car. And he bought it in 1968. That's a 64, so and he owned it up until I guess he passed last year, and then I got a hold of it, and I've been trying to get it going. It was running okay, just kind of stumbling off the line, and then sometimes it would flood out after exiting the highway. I tried a carb from rockauto.com. It wouldn't even run. I had to send it back, put the old one back on it, and then I took this one to Specialties in St. Charles to have them rebuild it. And 4 months and 1 day later, they called and said it was done. So now there were a few phone calls between then, telling me a couple issues they had, and they had to get parts and this and that. But anyway, put that carb on there, new fuel filter, you know, did everything right. All the vacuum lines are correct, it's getting fuel. And you start it up and it runs for about 3 or 4 seconds, sometimes less, and then it dies. I can't keep it going no matter how much I feather the gas or do whatever. It just seems like something's not allowing fuel to go in, and I'm going to demonstrate that here in a minute. So now I do have another new carb, well, a freshly rebuilt one from Carb Express out of California. So we're going to swap that out and put it on, and we'll see how it goes. So first I'm going to open the garage up a little bit, and I'm going to show you what this thing does. Now beforehand, let me get my movie lights on here. Let's take a look at the carb, just so you can see everything's hooked up and correct. Got our fuel line on, dash pot vacuum, got our vacuum advance, we've got our one running to the vent on the valve cover. Choke is hooked up. Choke is working correctly. When you, right now it's cold, hasn't been touched. When you hit the gas, it closes it up like it should, so that's good. But anyway, let's give it a spin here. I'm going to put the camera back. And then we'll fire this thing up. Or try to. And another thing to note, if you do get it going, open the garage here, and spray carb cleaner in it. I'm sorry, not carb cleaner, starter fluid. It will keep it going as long as you keep shooting the starter fluid in. So, starter fluid. So we've already engaged the choke by pressing the accelerator fully, and we'll go ahead and fire it here. That's about what we get. Now, if I can be quick enough and get over to it with the carb cleaner, it'll fire right up. So let's see if we can do it. Yeah. Anyway, that's what it's doing. It's running for a few seconds and then dying. Now, if I put a little extra juice in it, we might be able to keep it going long enough for me to get up there and start spraying. Maybe not. Get some in the primary. long as we give it fuel, it runs, so it's not getting fuel. Try it one more time. Anyway, I'm not going to stink up the whole garage right now. Continuing to demonstrate that, we're just going to go ahead and swap the carb out, and I'm going to try and give you an insight on that too, so a little help on anybody that wants to swap a carb on one of these. See if we can get the camera up here. Actually, got a little table here, I'm going to put it on. Get you up high so you can see what's going on, and then we'll get our movie lights over here. All right, I think that'll do, and we'll leave that garage open for a little bit. Seems to let the fumes get out, even though it is 35 degrees in here. So anyway, these carburetors are pretty simple actually, to swap out or take off or whatever. So first we'll disconnect our vacuum lines. Pretty simple. Dashpot, got the one over here for the vacuum advance, and then you got the one on the back for the crankcase vent. At that point, we're going to loosen up the fuel line. This is the one you got to be careful with. It's easy to strip off. Let's see. It'll help if I have the right size wrench. Loosen this. And carburetor tag number is 7024051. Original carburetor, we believe. Alright, now we're going to remove the line, go to the choke, 1/2 inch. Just a note when you're putting these back together, it does not, you don't need to torque these down really hard or anything. None of these bolts need to be super tight on this thing. Alright, so we've got our fuel line, got our vacuum lines off. Now we're going to take the linkage off for the kick down and for the accelerator. Now this might be kind of hard to see, but to get the, which one is this? The accelerator, it's pretty simple. It's actually just this little cuff here that holds it onto a ball, and if you just, this is a good little tool here to get a little pick to do these. You just pull it up a little, and then this linkage will come right off. I say that, and then it doesn't. There it is. Okay. So make sure a little piece of metal still on there that grips that ball right there. Anyway, that's the first one. The second one, to get the kick down off, there's a spring that attaches right here. We're going to get this hook in here and pull it straight up, and I'm going to put my hand under it so it doesn't fly out. And once you take this spring off, which looks like this, then you can just push the kick down bar right off of that linkage. So now the carburetor linkage is unhooked, and then we're gonna throw all these little parts we pull off in a little bucket here. So anyway, let's do the 4 main bolts on the carburetor. So these are 1/2-inch bolts. And again, these are not bolts that need to be super, super tight. Just snug. So that's 1. All 4 of them are the same. 2. Also, a little magnet wand is handy in case you drop these, or any of the parts for that matter. 3. And 4. Alright, so pretty much got this thing loose, and you can lift it right off. Now I'm going to put this on the table right here for now, and I'll readjust the camera here shortly. And show you how we're going to swap over a couple of parts onto the new carb. So let's do that right now. Readjust this here. And remember, when you take these off, they're going to be puking fuel, so have your cardboard ready. Oh, new fuel filter. By the way, you always want to do one when you're swapping the carburetor out. And then check your line too on the way up to it. Okay. Alright, so here's our fresh carburetor. Save the box for the core. And let me even put this up high just so you can get a good bird's eye view of what's going on here. Adjust our movie lights. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to kind of orient them with the fuel inlet on the front. So this would represent the front of the car, back of the car. So you can see right away, a couple things are a little different. The choke looks right, so we don't need to mess with that. Sometimes when you order these carbs, you don't get the choke on them. But obviously fuel inlet to get this little 45-degree angle. We're going to have to swap that. And then also this dash pod assembly. And real quick, what that's for, I don't know if it's even absolutely necessary, but it helps when you let off the gas. This little piston comes out, and supposedly like when you're rolling off the highway and you let off the gas, this will be out and it'll just bump the throttle a little bit to keep it from dying, and then slowly go in and back to idle. But there's videos explaining it better than I did. But anyway, so we're going to get those parts and swap them really quick. Also, we'll need to do the vacuum nipples on each one. So let's grab a couple tools here. doesn't work, and I'll try and do this so you can see everything. Alright, dash pot. So this will be just a 1/2 inch. I'm going to remove it from the old one. Let's see if we may have to push down on the throttle here to get to that bolt. Yeah, you do. So, that's not the right size. Too big. That's better. We got lucky there. Used the wrong size, but didn't go too far, so it didn't harm the bolt. So anyway, get that washer back on there. And then we'll put it on the new one. So you'll see there's a little bump right here that goes in this lower hole. Well, not really a hole, just an indentation on the new carb. So again, we're going to want to move that throttle back so that we can access this bolt. And see, make sure we can see that. Yep. And you want to be real careful with these. I just start them with usually fingers, or in this case, since that little bracket's in the way. Whoops. You know what, I'm going to go get my shallow dish, 7/16. Let's see. Couldn't see, not enough light in there. Get our washer on. We'll try this one starting by hand. There we go. Okay, and then we'll get our shallow 7/16 and make sure that that bottom is in that, lined up with that other hole. When you're assembling this, it kind of allows it to be held in there. All right. Tight. If I had to guess, maybe 8 to 12 foot-pounds. And then as you can see, that's the dash pot thing lining up there. So fairly easy. Now we'll swap the fuel inlet. Let's see. Looks like we're going to have to do the whole thing here. Now, when I got this one, it did not have, when I got it back, it did not have the little filter in there, but it does have a primary fuel filter where it comes off that little bubble. This is a factory setup here. That's not good. 16th, 3/4. Alright. Oh, didn't even need that, it's loose. Guess they don't put those little filters in them. That one didn't have it in there either. So, anyway, the reason we're putting this on, kind of see the angle on that. That's where that fuel line comes up in there. Going out flat ain't gonna work, because that's not a flex fuel flexible fuel hose or anything like that. So let's also check the depth. That shouldn't matter too much. Let's see here. Oh, right. Looks like that one already had a little bit of stripping damage on it, so just kind of take it easy here. Don't do anything too crazy. If it really starts binding up, we'll stop. These newer fuel inlets, they make them a little bit longer, because a lot of times the old ones get stripped out. Now it's starting to snug up there, and we're getting to the point where that's at the right angle there. So I'm just going to kind of aim that thing straight down, or roughly straight down, and we can fumble around with that when we get it on the car. So the only thing left is our air cleaner rod, and this kind of helps to hold the carburetor too when you're moving it around. So we'll screw that into the new one. Alright, and let's take one more look here. The linkages they look exact. And another important thing, make sure these linkages all move free. Now this one obviously has been redone, but all these little pivot points you want to make sure are good. Try your primaries. You know, obviously secondaries are locked up right now. We could push this down and test them. Yep, they open. Very good. So everything looks good there. Another demonstration of the choke. When you get in it and it's cold out, this will be open and you floor it once, and then it will close that up. There we go. Kind of hard to do just holding it, but anyway. So now we're gonna take this carb and put it on the intake. So let's get our camera moved around once again, and we'll go ahead and do that. So again, this is the old one. I waited 4 months and 1 day from C&S, which was I was not too happy, especially putting it on and then it not running. But anyway, so we'll get back to the car now, get our lights moved around. Get our table moved around. Get our camera repositioned. There we go. Got our movie lights ready. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and put the new one on. So let's get our gasket here. They gave us a fresh one. Like I said, make sure you put your new fuel filter on. We've already done that. And of course, check it first. Here we go. It's interesting. The 3 gaskets I've had for this thing, everybody's sent me a different one, so kind of have a look at them here. That one blocks off, whatever that little, and there's nothing there anyway. Alright, so we're gonna just go ahead and put the one on that Carb Express gave us. It came with the carb, although it looks like it protrudes slightly over on the primaries. Let's look at something again. That one seems to fit a little better, but if we have to, we'll come back and change it. Let's put the one on that they sent with it. Honestly, all three of them are probably fine, but you just get different things with different kits. So, okay. Let's go ahead and set that carb in there. Now, one very important thing to note when you're doing this, especially on these old ones with these really rigid fuel lines, this thing does not like to move or bend. I actually hooked this fuel line up here first before I bolt it down. Otherwise, you can see it's on a slight angle there. It's really hard to get this in without stripping it. So, without stripping this on the carburetor. So, anyway, I'm going to sit this down for a second. Then I'm going to get my wrenches here. We're going to go ahead and close the garage now. Most of the stink is out. Wrenches. Excuse me. All right. Try and angle that. It's angled slightly to the right. So we'll take this off for now so we don't damage it. And I'm going to give this a little turn here. That looks pretty good. Alright. Now sometimes these can be an absolute bear to get on, and you really want to make sure you line them up straight. See, that's already started to go a little bit the wrong way. You almost have to tilt the back of the carb up to get this thing lined up. Let's go ahead and get our proper wrench here ready. So, as you can see, I had to pick up the kind of the back of the carburetor a little bit. And we'll just get that, going. We're not going to crank it totally down yet. We'll get everything lined up first. So obviously now we're hooked up to the fuel line. So let's line our holes up on our front two bolts for the carb. See, this takes a little bit of finagling. Now we're going to set our carb down. Oh, something was in the way there. Oh. Let's take a look underneath really quick. Nipped that back edge of the gasket, very edge, so we may just go ahead and put a new one on there. Let's make sure this thing sits down. There we go. Okay. So this gasket would probably still work, but this other one in here anyway. kind of tricky to do when you have to hook that fuel line up first. All right, let's make sure our holes are lined up. That's better. Get our bolts going here. Okay, I gotta get my headlight on here. These are also handy for doing stuff like this. Now I can look right down into where we need these bolts to go. So get this one just hand started. Get the second one started as well. I have to use the wrench here. Actually, just the extension of the socket. Because I can't get my fingers down in there. Yep. Get on there. There it goes. So we got that one started. This third one started. So these last two should go right in, because once you get two of the holes lined up, that gasket's nice and straight. Nothing too tight, just hand tight. Grip the wrench at the top, not down here, and just snug it down, just firmly, and then make sure we have complete free movement. We'll, whoops. We'll open our secondaries, make sure we still have free movement. We do. Dig our wrench back out. Alright, so we have the 4 main bolts hooked in. Now, let's hook our choke up. And again, that's just a little 1/2 inch. Again, no need to put 300 foot-pounds of torque on it. Let's get snug. Alright, and then we'll hook our vacuum lines back up. That's what we forgot. I even said it on the video. You guys probably knew it was coming, so this makes it a little harder. So I'm going to pull the vacuum adapters off of the old carb. We'll do the vacuum advanced one first. Of course, we'll want to be careful here not to drop anything down in the engine. So I'm going to take my glove off. And this one is right here. start these. We'll do it left-handed. Get it going here. Alright, let's get the righty back on here. There it goes. Alright. Okay, that one's on. Vacuum line, vacuum line. Yeah, we gotta get the one coming off the back. This one's gonna be a fun one. Again, we want to be careful not to drop this in. So this is pretty much on the center of the lower part of the carb. So there we go. Going in nice. Got the brake booster vacuum thing kind of in the way, but I've got enough angle on this thing to make it work. Ooh. And hook up our vacuum line. Okay, so last two things, kick down, which we're going to need this spring here. This is kind of a funky thing. It goes long hook down, short hook around the throttle linkage here. So we'll put that bar, put that little hole in it up onto the linkage, and then literally this part of the spring is what holds that on. Now, I'm going to get our handy dandy little pick tool here, because we'll need it. What you'll do is hook that in the bottom and then hook your spring there and pull it up onto the top. Now this is obviously specific to this car. Every car is going to be a little different, so it's that easy. It hooks right on. Now, this other one should just press right on because it's got a little detent on it. And there it is. So we're going to make sure our linkage is good. Probably do a little wire cleanup. Some of these are kind of touching our linkage there. We'll play with that a little bit later. But anyway, so we're hooked up now. Fuel's on, vacuum lines are on, 4 main bolts are in, throttle linkage and kick down are on, so let's try and start it. So I'm going to pull the camera back here a little. And we're going to open the garage. And let's see if it'll work. Juice just to get that fuel pump moving. forgot to tighten this fuel line down, and it's coming out here too. So we're gonna real quick get some thread tape on there, and actually let's see if we can just give it a little bit of snug. I know I didn't tighten this one down yet. As you can see, it is running, and it runs for more than a few seconds, so, which is really good. And I'm going to tighten this up a little better. I just don't like to crank things down really hard on these old carburetors because you don't want to break anything. Line there, which I didn't tighten down yet, so I really want to hold that so it doesn't bend anything. Let's fire it again here, see if I stop. At least we're running. What we're going to do, you're going to run into stuff like this when you work in these old cars. We're going to get some paper towels underneath it. I want to see exactly where it's coming from. And then we'll either get some thread tape on it, or maybe fuel fitting, whatever we need. Probably won't need a new fuel fitting, but you know what? Actually, that one's pretty loose. Let's see exactly where it's coming from. Beautifully, I'll say that. It's better than it's ever run. Yeah, it's leaking out of this main line here. So we're going to go ahead and, I don't know if this is the proper remedy, but we're going to get some thread tape in there. So we're going to go ahead and do that really quick. Like I said, when you're working on these old cars, you're going to run into stuff like this. So just be patient with it and get everything right. As you can hear, we're 99% of the way there, so there's no need to get upset at this point. It's running good. So, like I said before, getting this fuel line to go in straight is a bear. There we go. And we may, you know what? That son of a bitch wasn't even on tight, so you know, just for the sake of not having to do it again, put just a little bit of thread tape on this main one here. Just in case that is the one leaking, but I could have turned that adapter around one more time. It was kind of loose on there. So And let's get a little bit of thread tape on this thing. Like I said, I don't know if this is the appropriate fix. Let's see, I would get this wrong with the thread tape. So I'm going to turn it this way, so I'm going to go this way. Actually, it's the other way. I'll just figure it out once I start turning it in my hand. I'll trim that extra little piece off when we get it wrapped here. Just go around 3 or 4 times. Like I said, I think what was leaking was this adapter piece here. All right, but just in case. So start screwing this in. Get our wrench here. I'm not too organized with the wrenches. Wrench for myself here. I got that camera on. Go in the front door, please. Close that door. All right, it's pretty snug right there. Let's get our big wrench. Turn that other inlet. Camera on. You got the keys?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that,
You can unlock the front door too.
Yeah, I know. It's cold.
Yeah.
We're gonna get in the house. Come on, little man. Come on. Go. I don't think it unlocks that door, does it?
Alright, back to work. Nobody's crabby. Okay, we're going to turn this, get this close, and kind of roll that fuel line into there. This is the one, remember I said, it's very difficult to get in with the carb down. We'll try it, but we may have to loosen those 4 bolts. Alright. Look at that, we got lucky. Right in. How about that? Let's do the right wrench. There it is. All right. So, let's try that out now. Here's the paper towel. Give it a shot again. Let it get a little heat on it, then we'll rev it a couple times. Idling down properly. Choke's opening up. Man, that runs smooth. It's like I don't even have to mess with the idle adjustment at this point. The idle air mixture, that baby is smooth. It's not hardly moving. Give it a little rev. Still a little cold. We will have to bring that idle up a little bit. As you can see, it runs now. So, yep, we will after all have to bring that idle up just a little bit, but it runs for more than 3 seconds now. How about that? It sounds pretty good. So, anyway, looks like the carb was the issue, and hope this helps with yours. And we got old Uncle Martin's Oldsmobile alive again, which is nice. Have a good day.